welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
I'm a lady called Emma. Oh, she's got to have a moment. I feel really overwhelmed. And you just come here for the meeting, right? It's got nothing to do with me at all. But, you know, if you have come here for the meeting, then that's really lovely. And if you have come here to celebrate with me, that's really lovely as well. And it means a lot, you know. This is my home group. This is my group. I would have thought by now, at 12 years, this would have kind of been gone with, you know, this would have been over and done with. This kind of, I feel really anxious and I feel really frightened, you know, there's a lot of people in front of me, and, you know, it doesn't get any easier, you know, because it feels like it's even harder because, like, you're all people that I know. When I shared in London at the convention, it was like all these people that I didn't really know. There was 1 or 2 people, and that was okay. I didn't feel like this, you know. I just feel really, really overwhelmed. I'd rather go camping than do this, and that's saying something for me. When I was in treatment, I got my whole group colluding not to go camping, and you know, and then I went, and it was just so, I had such a great time, and yeah, just okay, kind of sort myself out. 12 years, you know, it doesn't feel like 12 years at all, because I can remember my using so very, very clearly, and I can remember the degradation and that kind of existence, and that kind of gut-wrenching feeling of kind of waking up in the morning and knowing what I had to do that day to get what I needed. And the really sad thing when I look back is I didn't know any different. I really didn't know any different. And I didn't know any different for 14 years. My using was for 14 years. Came to my first meeting in August 2001, and I've been regularly coming to meetings ever since. I've never thought it was a good idea not to come to meetings, and when I first came, I just did as I was told. Because I was so desperate. The first meeting I ever went to was so strange. It was just so strange to be sat in a meeting like this with these sayings and the steps and the traditions on the wall, and sitting there with a whole array of beautiful people like you all are, and kind of looking at everyone and just kind of thinking, you know, you look kind of happy, and you know, you look all right, you know, and you look like you feel all right as well, because I certainly didn't feel all right in that first meeting. I had a baseball cap on. I used to wear it really as low as possible, because I didn't want anyone to see in see into me, because if they saw into me, then they would see the truth. Yeah. I went to that first meeting and strange that. So I was feeling all those feelings, and I went to that first meeting, and I came out, and the lady who took me to that meeting said, "What did you think?" And I said, "I'm nothing like them." You know, after listening to the shares, I'd looked for all the differences, didn't look for any similarities at all. You know, and the secretary had actually sort of said, you know, look for the similarities, not the differences. Being the type of person that I am, I look for the differences. Yeah. So I've been coming to meetings for 12 years. I had to learn how to sit in a meeting. When I first came, couldn't sit in a meeting. I'd be up and down all the time, going out for a cigarette. My first sponsor said to me, you know, it might just be you're going out for a cigarette, and it might just be the most important thing you need to hear in that meeting when you've gone out for that cigarette. So being an either all or nothing, I stopped smoking. And that's kind of how it is with me. It's all or nothing. You know, and thankfully, you know, NA, Narcotics Anonymous, it's been all for me. So yeah, always come to meetings. Always try to do what's suggested. Haven't always fulfilled that. And kind of bears the consequences of not doing things that are suggested, you know, thinking, well, you know, I know kind of that's being suggested, but, you know, maybe my way might be okay. And it never is. It never is. It never has been. And that's how I've learned. You know, that's kind of how I learn. I try not to learn like that today. You know, I try to open myself up, and I try to get vulnerable, and I think that's what it kind of is. It's kind of, you know, opening myself up, being vulnerable, speaking to you all, you know, and letting you in, and you know, and I'm all right on a one-to-one. I'm very selective, but when it comes to a whole array of people in front of me, you know, I find it quite difficult. I would much prefer be sitting in one of those seats and one of you be here, and I'll just share back to you. But that's not what happens in NA. It's about, we only keep what we have by giving it away, you know, and I find it incredibly difficult. But I sit here and I try to carry a message of recovery, you know, and that, you know, for me, this program has given me the ability to go through anything and stay clean, and I mean anything. All the most painful things that I thought I would never be able to go through and stay clean. I can go through anything and stay clean, and I can go through any feeling and stay clean. Yeah. The one reservation that I had, I went through clean, I stayed clean. Yeah. I've always had a sponsor. Haven't always worked with a sponsor. I think that's the best way that I can put it. Yeah. I have a sponsor today, and I work with my sponsor. And you never know where your sponsor is. The lady who sponsors me today gave me her phone number at the very first place I went to hear about recovery and heard a share. And last year, so it took 11 years. Took 11 years, yeah. I might add, I did used to sit in meetings in the area I was from and sort of complain that there was no women around, you know, and this lady had given me her number. Yeah, she's my sponsor today. So it took me 11 years. You know, nothing happens overnight. Although being the type of person that I am, I want it all now. It doesn't happen like that. Patience and tolerance, you know. So I have a sponsor. Oh, the other thing is as well, I had a real huge opinion of the Green and Gold Working Guide, and it wasn't. I suppose it was an opinion that I had, filled with lack of knowledge and no awareness of the Green and Gold. me being able to work it with somebody, with a sponsor. And so I would just kind of bang on about, if you're doing a step 4, it's got to be with columns, because, if you're not doing it with columns, you're not doing it the right way. And, I was quite arrogant in the early days, but filled with that fear. It's weird, isn't it? That whole kind of arrogance and fear. Never any grey area. No balance. So I actually went back to the meeting that I bought it from and gave it back to him and said, I don't even want my money back. Don't. If you stay here long enough, it's like you can see where you grow. I'm working through the Green and Gold working guide. I've worked through the steps before in a different way, and now I'm working through the Green and Gold. And my opinion of the Green and Gold is that it's fantastic. So I have a sponsor. I'm working through the Green and Gold. I'm also working the way that I work with my sponsor is I do a step, then I do a tradition, then I do a step, then I do a tradition. And that for me helps me to understand the traditions. I have 2 home groups, just because I can. It's suggested you have 1, but I have 2. I have the women's meeting, 5:15 in Bury St Edmunds, Whiting Street, and then generally we go out for fellowship and then come here to this meeting. And this is my home group meeting as well. And it's funny because all the home group members think that this is their meeting. It's a bit of a joke we've got going. And Tony always does commitments here. That's another one of our little jokes we have. He likes washing up. No, I love this home group meeting, and I've come to this home group meeting for quite a long time, and never did I need it any more than when my dad was poorly. I could come to this meeting and I could just say whatever it was I needed to say, what was going on at the time. I don't really want to talk about my using. My using is the same, the same as everyone else's, it's no different, it's the same feelings about it, same outcomes, same consequences, but we was joking, Lester was joking before this, and he was kind of saying, I said, he said, I said, half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour, I'm not going to do that. And he said, well, you've got 12 years to share about. And I said, I can share about my bad behaviour. And he said, no, Em, that's not long enough. You haven't got long enough. But I'm glad Lester's taken the meeting, because I've never had a fallout. How long have you been? How clean are you now?
5.5.
Yeah, 5.5. I've never had a fallout with him. That's really good for me. 5.5 years, we've never had a fallout at all. There are people in the fellowship that exist that I haven't fallen out with. But it's great because there's nowhere else for me to go, so I still come back. So if we have a fallout, I'm not going anywhere. I'll still be coming back. So what I'm going to talk about is the last few years, because the last few years have been monumental, I think, for me, really, in my recovery. I kind of, the early days of my recovery, and I don't want to sound blasé, and I don't want to sound, the first sort of years of my recovery were, I was very loved up. I was in a relationship. I was travelling around the world, and we bought homes, and it was all, the first 4 years was all very sort of, pink clouds. It was, and I did have a lovely time in my early days. What's been difficult is, as time has gone on, because those early days I didn't really have any big life turn-ups. not much really turned up. I was kind of out and about, and I was having a really great time, and it was all really, really good. And it wasn't until it wasn't until I ended up in treatment, 5 years clean and sober, in treatment, that things started to get a little bit difficult. I went to treatment. I'm grateful I went to treatment. It was really difficult. It was very difficult. I don't think I'd have been able to do that coming straight from the street and going into treatment. So I kind of take my hat off to anyone who goes there. I got clean in Narcotics Anonymous in Colchester, in the meetings. That's how I got clean. And it's just kind of, and I say that because, there was never any talk of treatment centres back then. Not really. No one really talks about treatment centres. Everybody was doing it kind of in the rooms, But the last few years, I think, I went for a long period of time where the easiest thing to say is that I was not working closely with a sponsor. I had a sponsor by name, and that's about it, and I think that's the best way to put it. And life was tricky. Life's really tricky. Life's really tricky in recovery, trying to do it by yourself. Not being able to be honest, feeling shame, feeling alone, feeling disconnected, and not having the courage, not having the courage to speak my truth. And and I was in this relationship, and really it had come to an end sort of when I went in treatment, really, at 5 years. But I stayed in it for 4.5 because I didn't have 4.5 years. I didn't have the courage to come out of it. I didn't have the courage to speak up. And funnily enough, at the same time, I was in a sponsorship relationship as well, and I didn't have the courage to come out of that either. So there's a pattern. I don't have the courage to speak my truth and move on from relationships that aren't working. And somehow I found that courage, and I found my truth, and I found quite a lot after my dad passed away. My dad, a lot of people know, my dad had cancer, and for 9 months, it's extremely difficult, but I had that 9 months with him, and I'm really grateful for that. I was able to come to meetings, and I was held, and I didn't use. And that was my one reservation that I thought I would. I really did think I would use. 6 months after my dad passed away, my relationship came to an end because lots of things happen when someone really close passes away, and kind of looked at life in a different way. And I was able to have the courage to come out of that relationship. So my dad passed, and it was kind of strange because my dad passed. I came out of the relationship, and it took a while for the grief. I was grieving badly for my dad, and then the grief of that relationship took quite a while to sort of. I just remember waking up one day and it just was there. I've been grieving so long for my dad, and then all of a sudden this grief was there. Just before that split. Just after Dad passed away, my mum got pneumonia, and it was mad. I was sitting in the back of an ambulance with my mum 4 months after my dad passed, thinking I'm now going to lose my mum. And I couldn't believe what was going on. I went to the hospital with her and went through that process with her as well. She ended up in the hospital that Daddy was in the same room at one point as he was in. It's very difficult. Then my relationship came to an end, and we split, and that was very difficult. And whilst I've been in that relationship, I has a lot of treatment, a lot of IVF treatment for the first 4.5 years of my recovery, and I had 4 babies and a set of twins. And I say on ice because it's just the easiest way to say it. They were waiting on. They were on ice, waiting to the process. And so after Mum, after the relationship, after Dad, partner that I was with decided to destroy them, and I tried everything. I had no lots of lessons in powerlessness was going on. I had no control in being able to have any say in that. And then not long after that, I went through a series of operations. I had 3 operations. And that was extremely difficult as well. And this all took place over a span of kind of like a couple of years. It's really hard, you know, going from those pink fluffy clouds, travelling around the world, you know, buying houses, no problems, just, oh, it's all lovely, what handbag and shoes shall I buy next, you know, just carefree. To having massive life showing up on the doorstep, you know, but consistently. It wasn't just one thing, it was like one thing after another. And, you know, there were times I didn't want to use, I felt suicidal, because using wouldn't have taken that pain, the pain that was there, away. And I can't describe the pain, it's a pain I've never had before. And trying to describe that pain has been really difficult. But I know people who have had that pain know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't had it, I hope you don't. But what I did do through all of that time was come to meetings. And I shared, and I was held. And I did go to therapy. I needed some outside help, and I went to therapy. And I say that because it's okay to go to therapy if you need to. And then after that, I got some lovely people who I started to kind of, you know, open up a little bit more to. And friends, they're my friends today. Anyone who knows me knows that, you know, the biggest thing that I struggle with is people. It's all right if I like you and I want you in my life, but if I don't and you're not doing what I want you to do when I want you to do it, God, you're hard work. I find it hard work. Yeah. And I had some friends who were able to help me today, you know, friends who are able to say to me, Em, it's time for you to get a sponsor, yeah, it's time for you to do some work, Em. Most poignant one being I had a fallout with a really good friend. We'd never had a fallout, 7 years, we'd never had a fallout, and then we had a fallout. And he said to me, Em, get a sponsor, what are you doing? And he was right, And, you know, I'd done all the therapy I could do. I'd done all the kind of grieving in the different ways I could do. I'd done all of that and what I needed to do, you know, as well as just coming to meetings, you know, doing my prayers, you know, and reading my literature, was to have a sponsor. And do you know what? In the amount of time that I wasn't doing any NA work with a sponsor, I didn't have any sponsees. Didn't have any. And as soon as I asked this lady to sponsor me, and as soon as I start doing step work, it's like they're like buses. It's kind of like, now that's kind of like, that's how it works. Great when things like that happen. It's kind of like, you don't do any step work, yeah? You don't work closely with a sponsor, yeah? You're going to get really unwell. No one's going to want that. If you work with a sponsor, you start looking at your stuff and you know, try and help yourself to get well, people are going to like that, you know, and yeah. I think everything happened for a reason, and I think those series of events that happened, you know, as gut-wrenching and heartbreaking as they were, and I was smashed to pieces, you know, I thought I was smashed to pieces. You know, my behaviour, I'll talk about my behaviour because it's kind of, you know, it's really out there. It's really out there, my behaviour. You know, my behaviour was so off-key around the babies that I actually had a friend who took me out to South Africa, because if I hadn't have left the country I would have probably been sitting in a jail. I was arrested in that time. I was taken down to Dagenham police station. What a dreadful place. I've been to some police stations, but that one is just disgusting. The good news is that they sat me on the little bench thing that you kind of sit on. Yeah, they didn't put me in a cell, but this bit's not funny. Sitting there with, I think I had 10 years clean. Just over 10 years clean. And being mouth swabbed. And being clean, and knowing that my behaviour, my nutty behaviour is that's the consequence of my nutty behaviour. Sitting down Dagenham police station having a mouth swab, and I started to cry when I was having that done, and I just kind of thought, what are you doing? Thank you. What are you doing? And it was all about what I wasn't doing. It's all about what I wasn't doing. I went away to South Africa. There's a treatment centre out there owned by a friend. Great, it was wonderful. I did a lot out there, and I also let off, the lanterns. I kind of wrote everything I wanted to write to Daddy, and I let the lantern off, and I did a lot of healing. And I came back from there, and I was still nutty, so I went back out again just to be sure, and came back, and series of events brought me to a place where, I have my sponsor today. I have sponsees today. I have to say, the sponsorship thing is I learned so much from the girls that I sponsor. I learned so much from them. I love sponsorship. I love my sponsor. I learned so much from her as well. She has never told me that she's too busy. She's a mummy. She's a daughter. She's a nanny. She goes to work. She has sponsees. Not once has she ever said to me she's not got time for me. I come to meetings is what I do. Regardless of how mad my behaviour is, regardless of sitting in a police station down Dagenham, regardless of all the mad things I've done. And I'm going to say this, I really need some time to just say this. When I didn't have the courage to speak my truth about the relationship that I was in, this is my behaviours as well, I'll let you into my behaviours. I'd go to meetings, right, because there was no intimacy in that relationship, right, for 4 years, nothing. Nada, nish, nothing, nothing, apart from don't swear, big space in the middle of the bed for 4 years. That's nearly as bad as kind of using and abusing yourself, staying in a relationship like that. That is like, there's no love, I'm not loving myself doing that. So that's what I thought I needed. I need some love. So I go down the meeting, and you people hugged me. And a few people hugged me for a little bit too long. So I thought, that's a sign. Might be able to get a bit of love there. Then someone come to one of my birthdays. Oh, I went there as well, it's the behaviour. And then someone came to one of my birthday shares and hadn't seen him for ages, and he bought me a card and he wrote in it, that as well. Abusing myself in that kind of way, because that's all I ever did. And I just want to talk about, I used to hear in meetings all the time about learning to love yourself. Then you need to try and learn to love yourself. And I, I never used to say, what do you mean? I never had any idea. I kind of thought I knew what they meant, but I didn't really. Learning to love myself today, when I feel poorly, I take myself to bed, I put myself into bed and I look after myself, When I don't feel good, I go to bed, I get the box set of The Wire out. Idris Elba. That makes me feel better. if I don't feel good, I pick the phone up. I talk to my friends. I have some today, some who I can really pick the phone up to. They're the ones who hear me. They're the ones who hear me. They're the ones who are present. There aren't many of them, but there's a couple of them. And that's all I need. It's one of the things I'm not very good at coping with people who aren't present when I'm speaking to them, or they can't hear me. I struggle with that. That's what I'm talking about when I say I struggle with people. Those are my difficulties I have. They're mine. They're not yours. They're mine. So learning to love myself, I felt down the other day, so I kind of passed the shop and I bought a nail varnish and I kind of do my nails and I go, yeah, that's nice. Have a nice bath, that's nice. Do a bit of shopping, that's nice. Take my mum out for lunch, that's nice. Sit at breakfast yesterday and go through all the lovely messages you lot sent me, so my mum can see them. That's really lovely. I don't know if there's anyone new in the room. I don't know if there is. You just got to keep coming back, and I had to do as I'm told. I'm not saying you've got to do as you're told, but it helped me. I had to be taught how to sit in a meeting, and I had to be taught how to be respectful in a meeting, and I had to be taught all this stuff. I did not know this stuff when I came in. I had to be taught, turn your phone off when you're in a meeting, Em, and listen. Don't keep getting up and down, Em. You might miss what you need to hear. Get a sponsor, get a home group, get service positions. These are the things you need to do, Emma, if you want to stay clean, and have some kind of life, And the other thing that's really important, and I'm going to end on this, what I did yesterday, for my recovery, that kept me clean, might not be enough today. Every day's different. Like with those real big life events that turn up, they rock up on your doorstep. So I know that, if I'm doing all these things that was suggested, then those are the things that will take care of me. And I don't have to use on any major event, and I don't have to use on any feeling. And massive freedom in that. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. NAPOD is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 or more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to napod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.